Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Today we are talking about finding specialized talent. So, welcome back, winos. We are so happy you are joining us for episode 10 of season 3 already. Crazy to think we're almost through the summer. Don't know where the time is going. Today we have a special guest with us, Steve Sova. He is from Sandella Sova Search Partners, and we're going to give him a chance to introduce himself properly in just a moment. But the reason that we have Steve on this show is that we are talking about specialized talent, how to find them, where to look for them, and what to do with them once you got them. And it's a little bit different than the other types of recruitment we've talked about previously. So we're excited to get into it. But first, we have to get to the WINE. So, Steve, why don't you take a minute, introduce yourself to everybody, and tell us what you're drinking?
Thank you, Julie. So Steve Sova, I'm co-founder of Sandella Sova Search Partners. We are a remote work from home company. My wife is my business partner, Ashley Sova, who runs essentially everything behind the scenes.
Hey, Ashley.
Yeah, right. I've never developed a website before, or organization isn't a skill of mine per se, and that's where she's excellent. So we make a good team in this way. I've got almost 15 years of recruiting experience, and after almost 14 of those years with one firm, we finally decided to strike out on our own a year ago. And so it's been a really exciting year for us.
Congratulations on a year. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Been a little bit of wine along the way to help us along the journey. Not the least stressful thing you could do with your life, start a company in your
Right.
late 30s, early 40s with 3 kids. However, I didn't tell you this. I am currently in the middle of a 100-day alcohol cleanse.
Ooh, okay.
So I do have wine, but it is NA wine. It's called Spring in a Bottle. I guess I'm holding it up and you can't see it right now.
Yeah, because it got blurred out.
It got blurred out. Of course, it's summer, but I was at Whole Foods looking for something, and their Summer in a Bottle wasn't available in an NA option. So Spring in a Bottle is what we have. I figured it was still white wine season. So I'm drinking a Blanc de Blancs from Wolfer Estate, and it's quite delicious and refreshing.
Ooh, good.
Yeah, so it's a good way to start the afternoon, even though I don't have my the effect of my chosen drink for the podcast today per se.
No, that's great though.
Steve, what would that have been if you hadn't been on a cleanse? What is your chosen drink?
I would have chosen. I saw you. I think I saw a glass of red. I'm kind of a classic Cabernet that just give me a nice red, and I'll settle into that most of the time. Yeah, that'd be for me.
Very nice.
Very cool.
Nice.
I'm happy to hear about a non-alcoholic version that you actually like, because the ones I have tried thus far have been less than appealing. Let's just
I still haven't figured out how to get over the mental. Do you know what I mean? It's like you pay as much for this,
right.
And I'm always like, but I don't. It's probably one of the better NA options I've enjoyed so far. So I'm pleased.
Good to know. Good to know.
Thanks.
Trisha, what about you? What you drinking?
A Gamay.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I've been kind of back on my Pinot Noirs lately, but I was trying to find something, not that Pinots are by any means heavy, but they're a little more mouthy than I wanted today, which is kind of funny. I want to be the mouthy one, I think.
On a podcast, for sure.
Right. So the Louis Jadot, back in the early 2000s, they had a Pinot Noir that I really, really loved. And I forget which version it was, so not really important. But when I was thinking about trying to do something today, I saw this when I was at Sam's Club and I thought, hey, what the heck? Because I remembered that the Gamay are a little lighter. But you will love the description. I even had to take a picture of it. So, mineral driven, which was the very first thing I tasted, was the mineral. I knew you would be excited. This light to medium bodied Gamay shows raspberry and currant fruit edged with white pepper and dried herb elements. It is crisp and refreshing. Enjoy with cheese, specifically brie and cheddar, and grilled meat, salmon, sausage, tuna, and turkey. And they said that with the turkey, it's best if you serve it cold, which I thought was really interesting. And
Great.
my first taste, it definitely was the minerals. As I'm slowly kind of starting to get into it, I'm starting to taste more of the other flavors they were talking about. So I'm excited to see, as usual, how it is once we're done with our episode.
Awesome.
What about you, Jules?
So I'm drinking my Route 1 Sauvignon Blanc from Chile, which we all know that I love. But the reason I am drinking it is because I did a training in Boston last week with a wonderful group from UniFirst. So shout out to all of them. And one of the participants, Melanie Flannery, a lovely Italian girl. That's a little bit of an inside joke because she's 100% Irish, but she was brought up Italian.
Like, what?
So shout out to Melanie, but she told me that there is a TikTok thing going around that if you put a jalapeno inside a Sauvignon Blanc, it's supposed to change the flavor somehow and make it amazing. So I have some jalapenos and my Sauvignon Blanc, and now we're going to see. So first, let me taste it again without it, which of course I love. The Root 1 is a little less bitey than a lot of Sauvignon Blancs, which I already like. But okay, so now we're going to see. I'm going to swish it around, see what happens. I don't know.
You know I'm dying right now.
I know. So far, I can't taste much of a difference. Maybe they have to sit in there for a little bit.
I wonder.
Yeah, they may have to be absorbed. So I'll let you know at the end of the show if it really changes it.
Maybe you should pour a second glass and set it aside so that when you're ready for your next glass, it has already had a chance to.
Well, look at you. I just happen to have 2 wine glasses here.
I mean, it's like I don't know you or something.
I know, right? Okay. Well, Trisha said so.
I was going to say, twists are iron.
All right. So we'll come back to that. I will let you know if it drastically changes the flavor. Okay, so we got through the WINE, so now we're going to get to the WHINE of the episode. As I mentioned, we've done a couple episodes on recruiting and talent acquisition this year, but it was in the more general sense. So we this time wanted to focus on those positions that are for a specialized skill base or knowledge base that are sometimes more challenging to find. So accountants, CFOs, CEOs, attorneys, those higher level positions that take lots of years of experience, usually degrees, licensures, all sorts of that good stuff. So of course, before we get into how to do that, we have to let Trish do what Trish does best, which is give us some stats about why we're talking about this. So, Trisha?
Stat time!
Time! I know, we need some music.
We keep saying that. We're going to eventually do it. So one of the biggest things that I found interesting with these stats was when you are listening to them, I want you to think about the challenges you already face with recruiting in general. And so think about those challenges, and now you're going to go, above and beyond that. So that's what I think is really, really fascinating. The first one I want to talk about is increased demand. So the demand for specialized talents. So we're talking about things like maybe CFOs, attorneys, things of that nature surged about 20%. There was this 20% increase in executive level positions that require these kind of niche or niche skills over the past year. I mean, just over the past year, there was a 20% increase. Now, you all know how long it takes to hire someone. One of my biggest pet peeves. You can just see it like a knife in my heart.
Yeah.
So on average, it takes 90 to 120 days to fill those highly specialized roles compared to, and you guys are probably going to be excited about this stat, 45 to 60 days for general positions. You're like 45 to 60, we would kill for something like that these days. However, as you can imagine, most of us are kind of seeing that later end more so than the early numbers. Higher compensation, when we're talking about higher compensation, companies are actually willing to pay a premium for specialized expertise. Not a surprise. So salaries for these roles are about 25 to 50% higher than their non-specialized counterparts. And you know what we're going to talk about next. Talent shortage. As we're talking about longer times to hire, the fact that you need to pay more. Well, when there's a talent shortage, that impacts it even more. So this really does create a very limited pool of candidates for us. This is a crazy stat, less than 5% of all finance professionals possess the specific skill set required to actually fill a top tier CFO role. Steve will be able to tell us a lot more about that, I know. So we do want to rely on recruiters. It's a lot better for us when it comes to these specialized positions to steal their talent, their knowledge, and their help. So approximately 70%, like I said, of companies utilize specialized executive search firms to find these candidates. Now, the last one, and Julie and I's favorite, I think, has been really the focus for this last year of episodes, has been retention. And we're always talking to you all about retention. When it comes to the specialized talents, then they often do receive multiple offers. And so you really have to think about what you can do, not just to get them, but to retain them. Because right now, the average tenure for a CFO in a large corporation is about 4.5 years. And so you really want to do everything you can to make this investment that you're making, this time and money investment, really worth it. So, Steve, what can you offer us about those stats? Any insights or any place you want to start?
Sure. I thought your higher compensation note was especially relevant. We had a recent experience looking for an international tax professional for one of our clients, very, very specialized. And they ended up going 25% over the intended range because we showed them the data, we showed them the talent available at the preferred number, and they went quite a bit above it to land the no-brainer candidate as soon as they saw this individual. So I've seen this firsthand time and time again. With these specialized roles, you often get what you pay for, right? And this we just celebrated a hire 2 weeks ago that told that compensation story.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
that's really interesting. Well, and Steve, one of the things I know you and I talked about this, and I've already mentioned it on one of our episodes of the podcast, but it goes to one of the first tips for finding specialized talent, which is clearly defining the role. And I think often about this post of yours that I saw on LinkedIn, where you talked about how I'm, paraphrasing all of this because it's been a minute, but you talked about how you were trying to help a company find, somebody for a finance related role. and they said that like they just weren't wowed by the candidate, and you sort of came back with, do you need to be wowed by the finance guy, like, again, I'm paraphrasing here, but that was the what I took away from it. But I thought it was such an important point because we do all sort of, I think a lot of us fall into that trap. Like when we're interviewing somebody, we just want to be like, yes, we want the sign from above and the rockets and the fireworks. It's like, this is the
Yeah,
one, and we want everybody to be charismatic and full of, um, light and love and all those good things. And,
sure.
and that doesn't always mean they'd actually be a good fit for the role. So, and give you a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I've always loved that story, and I'm glad it resonated with you, Julie. It, it goes, I think, a little deeper actually. Like this company in the story we're referencing, was was a small corporate office in a manufacturing environment, right? And it was a manufacturing environment that was, not in, for a lot of people, a desirable location. And those all matter. If companies aren't always self-aware of sort of who they can acquire when they start a search, right? And sometimes it's the recruiter's job to deliver the news they might not want to hear, which is, I know you want the rockets in the background while you're making the offer, but the reality is that person is going to a competing company that has a little deeper pockets, a little more desirable location, a little work from home flexibility you don't have. Sometimes we've got to explain that. And so that's a really common experience for me, and one that I suppose I've gotten better at delivering with tenure too, is like, I don't like giving bad news, but sometimes I have to,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great point because I have clients that have the same thing. It might not be, a finance professional that they're looking for, but they need people to be, superintendents or project managers in these remote locations where
Hmm.
they're probably going to be there for 2 or 3 years living out of a hotel or, possibly renting a house, but there ain't a lot going on out there, you know? And then they might be living away from their families for a period of time. And I do agree with you that sometimes it's really hard for clients to take a step back and say, we have to work a little harder to fill this particular position because on top of us needing specialized skills, we also just have some challenges that we might not have in other positions that are in better locations or, have more amenities or more perks just because of where they're located.
Right, right. We're starting to come out of, the work from home debate a little bit, right? I would say because a significant part of our client base is manufacturing distribution companies that we end up supporting. It's more common now that they're in the office, right? But 18 months ago, 2 years ago, if you were the company that was in the office asking, these sought after, let's say, tax professionals to do that when they have two offers from other companies that are much more flexible, that you're starting from behind, right? So that the consultative side of what we do is definitely, I think, underappreciated, but really important, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, and then, Trish, I know that that last piece that you were talking, that was the part that stuck out for me too, that the average tenure is only 4.5 years. So you got to work so hard to get these
Easy, a
people,
easy number.
and then they're not even gonna, like, that's one of the ones we talk about where turnover makes such a difference because that replacing somebody with that kind of knowledge base and that kind of, experience level and skill level is not easy. And to
Right.
have to do it again every 4.5 years,
Oh
that
my gosh,
that's a
yeah.
lot.
Steve, is that something like someone like you? could help with. I mean, so one of our other things that we have is leverage specialized recruiters, which is what you are.
Mhm.
And so what we're offering as our tip is to partner with executive firms or recruiters that specialize in the industry for which you are trying to fill the role. But my question is not just talking about that, but going back to what we were just saying, how is there a way that specialized recruiting services like yours can actually help work on retention as well as you're looking for that client, making sure that they are the best fit? Like how do you guys go about doing that?
Sure. By the way, I was surprised 4.5. I thought it'd be more like 2.5 to 3, um, which is
Sweet.
crazy, right? Because like I see that's actually pretty common, and that helps, I think, answer the question. Um, when I take an intake with a company client or potentially new company client, and we're always going to have a conversation about career tenure, right? It's very common. I think I actually have this set as a LinkedIn post in 2 days, Jules, which is don't bring me any long resumes because that's your first indicator, right? Like, the past experience isn't always indicative of future results, but it's often a pretty darn useful data point, right? This person's made 3 moves in 6 years. Where's our confidence that we're going to get four, let alone 7 or 8 out of the next person? So that's a big one for us. I mean, one of my best practices when we place a person in a role is to do a quarterly and then a biannual and then an annual touch base. It's a very, very, very small part in retention compared to what the company can do, right?
Right.
But it's a little piece that we can do as a broker. And I'll give an example of uh, sort of a proud moment, a retention moment that I provided as a broker, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah,
Please.
Um,
absolutely.
I had placed a tax person. This would have been 3 or 4 years ago at a Fortune 150 company, and this individual had a child with special needs. And I think a year into their tenure with the company, they reached out to me and they said, "I think I need to start looking for a new role because the benefits are not exactly what my family needs." And I said to the individual, before you start looking for a new role, have you thought about addressing that with your leader first? And I think in my experience, most people would, as bizarre as it sounds, actually rather look for a new job than have a difficult conversation. Um,
That's not bizarre at all to us.
That's
yeah,
right up our alley.
yeah.
We know that's
And I'm, I live in difficult conversation, as suppose as I alluded to, so I'm used to that. But long story short, he ended up sort of taking my advice, had a meeting, and they ended up adding like a one-time annual sign-on bonus to retain him. And now he's been there 4, 5, 6 years. Both parties are happy with one another, and so that's a little, that's a reason for those follow-ups. And that's, again, I think the value of a broker is sometimes to help, our clients, our candidates navigate these uncomfortable conversations. So, um, I, I think that did I speak to that, Trish, in a way that, did I hit that on the nose?
absolutely you did. That's exactly what I was looking for, just so that people understand that it's not just the value that you provide up front, it's what you can do along the way too. That's what I wanted to get to, because I think that's at least for me, that's something that I think people don't actually recognize or realize when they think, oh, well, we have to do this and oh, what a pain, we have to go outside, but they don't realize all of the benefits either. And so that's why I was
Yeah.
asking you to speak to that.
And,
Well, and I also think it brings up a great point for our audience that if you do need to use a specialized recruiter, that you ask them if they do things like that, because I don't think many do.
Oh, good
I
point.
think I
I
think you're
agree.
pretty unique there, Steve. So
Well, the most common reason a recruiter follows up with the candidate they placed is to try to place them somewhere else a
mhm.
year or two later. It's that I hear this all the time. It's like, I mean, in my younger days, I might have even had a head of a department say, "Why did you follow up with so and so?" And because they haven't had the experience of somebody who's actually doing the right thing years after they earned the fee, not just looking for the next fee.
Hmm.
I've learned in 15 years in this business, you know, doing the right things um, actually enhances that your sort of financial return over the long run. Uh, yes,
Here, here.
right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Cheers to
Cheers to
that.
that. Oh, and since we're breaking for a minute, I will now tell you I can 100% taste the difference with the jalapenos, and it does cut the bitiness. It's very interesting, but you also then get like a snout full of jalapeno when you lift it up to drink it, which I'm not thrilled with that part, but it does give it a very nice flavor, a little bit more subtle. It's fascinating. You have to try it, Trisha. You'll love it.
Oh, you know I will.
Yeah, yeah.
Except that I'll be eating the
Uh,
jalapenos and be like, oh,
that's
darn it.
okay. You'll
I
get
just,
some extra veggies. It's all good. It's all
All
good.
good.
I just every time I see your hand, I'm like, don't accidentally scratch your eye and do the rest of the pod with one eye,
Right?
please. I've done that. We've all done that, I think.
Mhm. Trisha and I have both been there.
Mm-hmm. Once or twice. Once or twice.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. Yeah. um, Steve, why don't you give our audience another tip about recruiting these sort of specialized positions?
Sure. I think that it's a common misconception that uh, that every time you launch a search, it's going to result in a more along the lines of your 45 to 60 general, right? I think that's the expectations when internal recruiters reach out to us and they ask us to engage in a project. It's, well, we had to hire an accounts payable person and we've had 75 applicants in the first 2 days. Where are these international tax people at, right? And so, yes, these more specialized roles, they take more time. And for us as headhunters, it's not necessarily time to do the research to find them, but it took a cold call, a text message, a LinkedIn message, a LinkedIn connection request, maybe 3 emails to finally earn a response, let alone then vet if they can do the job. And if you do all 7 of those communication touches in the first 7 days, they won't respond to you. It's again, it's playing a longer communication game and trying to put yourselves in the shoes of who you're reaching out to. I wouldn't want somebody to hit me up with every piece of communication they had in a week. So that person we just placed in the international role was a good example. I think it was 3 or 4 touches over a 2 week span without a response, and then finally we were off, and 2 weeks later he was hired. But I mean, it took us a month of finding candidates that were almost close and you know, they got close maybe to coming up on their number for somebody they weren't that excited about, but they held their ground, and we were fortunate that we landed them. So I think that's the biggest one is I like seeing your stat on 90 to 120, Trish, because it reminds me, like,
Yeah.
you know, urgency matters in recruiting. Whenever I start to search, I'm like, I'm already behind. Um, but remembering that specialized positions take longer, I'm glad that you reminded me.
I like the way you said that too. It's please understand that when you go to the recruiter companies, you are already behind and you're expecting them to just jump on and like produce something out of thin air, and they have to realize that it is a specialized area, and that even though yes you have the connections and yes you have the experience, the background, or things that they may not know about, it still takes you time. It's
Sure.
still because every candidate is going to be different, because every job is different and every company is different, and so that quote unquote right fit is going to be different.
Mhm.
And that all takes time to figure out.
That's exactly right.
Look at me, I got this.
You nailed
It's like I'm obsessed with recruiting or something.
it. You
Recruiting and stats, see, those are my things.
uh I my that's a great takeaway for me from our time together so far is I don't think I'm using statistics enough to validate the small business we're running. And it's not like we're swimming in data. We only do 25 or 30 specialized searches, so we should be able to give them the data in a little more boutique experience. So thanks for the inspiration.
Well, you're so welcome. Glad I could help. We could
See,
thank the wine.
numbers work, people. Numbers work. We're always saying that because HR people don't tend to love numbers, but data matters. And so that's, one of the things that we like to encourage people to start keeping track of the things that they can actually track and using that to tell a story. Which brings me to one of our next tips, which is you have to have a strong employer brand, which that is a little less tangible, but I don't think that enough people appreciate how important that is when you are trying to recruit these highly specialized positions. Because usually, by the time somebody, and I can speak for myself in this regard, but by the time somebody reaches that level where they have these licensures, and, like Trish and I had to pass the bar exam, and then you got to get licensed in the various states that you're practicing, and then you got to do all these things, and you got to keep getting your CLEs, and you got to, do all these things. Usually by then, I'm not leaving just to go anywhere. I'm not leaving to just go get more money. By that point, probably want a bit of a lifestyle change. I want someplace where I feel I can really make an impact. I want someplace where I feel like I'm not just punching a clock, but I actually matter as a human, and so I want to go to a company that knows who they are and can tell me who they are.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of companies downplay that or don't recognize the importance of having a strong employer brand when they are recruiting in general, but specifically recruiting for those harder to fill positions. Trish, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it cracks me up because you know where I was going to go next. I was going to go to company culture and
Oh, I
growth.
know. I didn't want to steal
So,
it from you.
but the two, I mean, I think the
Mhm,
two
yeah.
go hand in hand, right?
Hmm.
Because I believe in branding 100%. I think that especially with the younger demographic, if you do not have a recognizable brand, if they don't know who you are from getting on your website, if they can't easily apply, if they can't do all of those things that we always talk about, they're going to skip right over you. And so then, okay, so great, you have this brand, you pull them in with your website, but then in order to get people to apply, especially these specialized roles that we're talking about, you have to have something more. Like most of these people, like Julie just mentioned, it kind of was a perfect segue. You're not leaving just because you want to leave. You're leaving because you're looking for like a lifestyle change, or you're looking for something that, or a company that aligns more with your values. And so when people are leaving, they're going to be looking for these specific things that are important to them. And by, I would say, by showcasing your values, by showcasing what kind of work-life balance that you have, this is something that will really appeal. Look, you're still going to have to pay the salary, right? The salary is important, but it goes above and beyond. I believe it goes above and beyond salary once you get to this level.
If
And
I could,
Steve, tell me how, yeah,
yeah.
please.
And thank you. When two things related to that. One is, in my experience, a finance and accounting function can have a completely separate reputation from the company, right? Like, they're no names, but there's a company in Northeast Ohio whose tax department, for the first 5 or 6 years I worked in the industry, had a reputation for high turnover and really long hours related to that. It can take half a decade to recover from a reputation like that, right? And that's a difficult thing. And so, department reputation within that, I think, is super relevant. Um, and then, yes, you're right. Like, it's a common question for me when I'm introducing an opportunity to a candidate is, what do you know about this company? I'm often representing companies that, have a recruiting challenge. So it isn't, Sherwin-Williams. It's a company that's a little sneakier. Well, I'd love to be able to then brag about them and send them like an Instagram that has some videos on that are well branded that shows what they do. I mean, a lot of what we're working with is young professionals or big four professionals that maybe want to leave accounting and get more stability. And they want to be proud of working for this one company instead of working as a consultant. If your company can't tell their story well, you're probably not getting the big four. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, it's super, super, super. And we help coach some of our clients on this topic too.
And what about the I didn't really get into the development opportunity aspect of it, but like how does that play into it when you are searching for candidates? What kind of questions do the candidates ask about development opportunities? What do your clients share
Sure.
with you? I mean, obviously not
Yeah.
specifics, but
No, that it's so part of one of my important intake questions, right, is what's the career path for the person that you're looking to bring on, which is a
perfect.
huge factor in finding the right person. Like, if the company goes, look, we're a three-person department, the person's going to do that job unless one of us retires or dies, right? Um, that's different than the candidate who's like, I want to be promoted to director in the next 3 years. Well, that's misalignment. So
Hmm.
it's
Right.
aligning, the company's value proposition, including the upward mobility with the right person is half the battle. You could find the best most skilled person who can do the job. But if they're only willing to do it for 12 months before they get bored and look for a promotion, you're not actually hiring the right person at that point.
I think that's a huge point. Huge point. And again, the whole point of using a recruiter because you're able to help bridge that gap, I think. You used the word self-awareness earlier, and that is my ultimate takeaway so far from our conversation is that companies need to be more self-aware, not only of what they are offering as a company, but where they're located and what they can ultimately
Right.
get and give in this process.
Amen.
Yeah, Steve, I wanted to ask also, part of one of the strategies for finding specialized talent is like really knowing the targeted talent and what they're about, but also being able to interview them. And I think that that can be a challenge for companies when they're like, but we're not a finance professional or we're not an attorney. We're not, how do we interview somebody who has a knowledge base that we don't necessarily understand? And I think that can be very intimidating. So how do you help companies with that part of the
Sure.
process?
The term I use for that is that the right headhunter can help lend credibility to your search process. And the wrong recruiter can hurt the credibility of the search, right? You put a generalist recruiter on a position where the first five candidates are all off base, and you'll have some frustrated department leaders at that point, right? When you hire the right headhunter who hits the nail on the head, you're reinforcing that you've made a good decision on which vendor to choose. So I'm forgetting your question. Your question was, what was your question, Julie?
Oh, no, that's okay. So my question was, can you help the companies sort of formulate interview questions
Mm,
when they don't have the knowledge base to really know if what the candidate is telling them is accurate
yeah.
or is just a line of crap, to be
Uh-huh.
frank, that they're like really good at interviewing and they know all the buzzwords but they don't actually know how
Right.
to do the job.
Well, I'm guessing Trish, you've seen this too, but I think a lot of the companies we work with have a third party assessment as part of the process, like a caliper, if you're familiar, is I think a really common assessment tool that we see companies use for these more strategic leadership roles. So like usually what I find is we're relied on to do the real technical vetting. And then our internal recruiting partner is there to like shepherd the process and help build the candidate's enthusiasm through the way. And by the time we get to the department leaders, we're usually pretty confident we've at least got somebody who can do the job. That's that next assessment, I actually think can be a really valuable tool. It maybe sounds like overkill, but to your point, if you're looking to get tenure out of a CFO, you're paying $500,000. You probably want to be a little more thorough in that case, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. All right. Trish, you want to pick another tip?
Actually, I had a question more than picking
Okay.
the tip because I want to know Steve's thought on it. One of our tips is to utilize the niche job boards and platforms. So, in other words, everybody's familiar with and I don't know why y'all, but I say Monster first. Everybody's like, Trisha, Monster doesn't even exist anymore. I'm like, I don't know. It just made me giggle with a little R. I always think of that. So like Indeed or one of those platforms. So those are the general job boards that most of us are aware of. What do you think about specialized job boards or communities that cater to specific professions? Do you utilize them? Do you think they're helpful for our listeners? What are your thoughts on that one?
I think they can be extremely helpful, and I think there's probably a niche job board or career management resource for almost anything these days. In the past, I've done a lot of work with energy utility companies, which have a real specific type of accounting that usually needs to be done, and they're all in the same network. They all seem to know each other. Uh, the one I'm most commonly and most close to is the Tax Executives Institute. So the TEI,
Sounds so
I
fancy.
know.
I know.
TEI, they have a chapter in every major market. Um,
Mhm.
and so they have their own job board. And they have, you know, meetings, I think every month or every quarter, where sometimes they're talking about which department maybe just outsource their function and all their people are looking for jobs now, or just made an acquisition and they're looking to bring a number of people in. And they use each other to, refer talent. So I think it can be tremendously helpful. I would suggest to any, especially tax professional, because it's closest to my heart, I suppose, join your local TEI, build those relationships, and I'll bet you if somebody's looking for a job in whatever when they have to, they have a leg up versus somebody who hasn't been, in their local network, creating those relationships. So I think they can be tremendously helpful. Although Monster and Creel Builder, haven't heard those thrown around in a little bit. I don't know.
Like I say, hey, when you talk about doing this for a while, right? That's about how long I've been in the biz.
I was found on Career Builder, actually. I came into recruiting. I didn't apply. I just had a resume 2010 floating around and got a phone call and found the profession I love on accident. So thank
That's
you, Career Builder and
amazing.
Monster.
See, no, all right, this will make you laugh. I actually, one of my favorite jobs and what really got me fully into recruiting, the job that I got was on Craigslist.
Really?
Craigslist. Can you believe
Wow.
that? My friend told me about it, and I was like, I am not applying for a job on Craigslist. That sounds like something where I'm going to end up in some South American country. You know, I did not know. Mm-mm. And turned out it was, yeah, it was one of my favorite jobs ever. So they were trying something different because they weren't finding the going to what we were saying, they wanted to do something different because they just were not finding the right candidates. And then I got lucky that someone at the company told me about the job. They were like, this is a fantastic job. Trust me, I know it sounds scary, but go. And so I did.
Well, and I think that brings us to one other thing, and Steve, you've already mentioned it, but leveraging social media. So I know like a lot of companies hate to have to do social media. Lord knows I hate it too. But I am curious to hear how you've seen that matter. But also, like on that note, staying up to date with what the current platforms are. I was laughing because when I was doing the training last week, I kept saying, like, when we were talking about internal investigations, but I was talking about how, a lot of times coworkers bring Facebook posts to their managers, and I was like, that's probably not the thing anymore.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, well, at least you didn't say MySpace, and I was like, truth. But being able to keep up with the current social media trends. But how much of an impact have you seen that? I know you already mentioned that candidates want to be able to go on social media and be able to see like videos or photos, or at least get some sense of the company's personality. But what other ways have you seen that be impactful?
It's a huge part of it because, like, I tell every candidate, this sounds so obvious, but you can't be too prepared for an interview. And what are you preparing for when you're preparing for an interview? It's doing some research about the company. Well, if you're trying to find the hiring leader and they don't have a footprint online, there's zero opportunity for the candidate to become more enthused about, oh, we both worked at the same firm, or we have a mutual connection, or you worked at this company I think is fascinating and it's an opening rapport. If you don't have a LinkedIn, you're giving the candidate nothing, right? So that's like an example of where it can be valuable. And another example, my wife Ashley reminds me all the time that she and I learn and think differently. I talk and listen, and I'm a very audible person. And most of the time she's like, Steve, can you put that in an email? Okay. So the way we set our company up is we tag team when we have a candidate we like. I tell the story after I've vetted them on the company's behalf, and then I send this really nice document that my wife pulled together with clickable links to their Instagram, to view the job description, to view the leader, to view news on the company, because we know how important it is to not to back up what they heard with what they can find on their own. So yeah, I think a company that isn't leveraging social, especially LinkedIn, the most common one, is missing an opportunity to tell their story.
That is fantastic, by the way. I would love to get an email like that with like everything that we had just discussed, all like summarized and clickable links. That is, oh, you're speaking to my heart there.
See,
Well,
for me, I would.
I think it's a really important point about, people receive information differently.
Mhm.
And again, I think we tend to get a little bit of tunnel vision when we're um, creating a recruitment strategy because we do the things that we would like. You fall into that that implicit bias that we talk about all the time, like, oh, well, everybody is fine with this because we're fine with this. And it's a good reminder to think about, I don't know, a lot of people digest information differently. And so, to your point, just having those different touch points and those different avenues for people to learn more, to engage more, to really learn more about the company's personality are really invaluable.
Um,
100% agree. I mean, it's helpful for personal, like your personal relationships too, right?
Yep.
It isn't just about the business, like understanding that we all do communicate differently, I think is an invaluable point, and it will help you once you land the job too. Steve, you were going to say something before I cut you off. I apologize.
I think we're all just riffing on the same topic at this point, right? But who the people I recruit for a living couldn't be any more different than who I am as a person most of the time. I'm a communications person, right? You send me an email, and most of the time I skim it. I'd rather not usually read everything in the email. Uh, these are accountants. They're very detail oriented. They think through numbers, right? And so I've had to learn, and it's taken, arguably a decade and a half, and it's still a work in progress to figure out how to take what's in here and deliver it in a way that's received the right way. So yeah, your podcast is largely about like HR and business psychology and how it ties in. I just love this whole world. I could drink non-alcoholic wine literally all day and talk about it with you guys.
Yes, our one constraint is that if we drank wine all day, we would make no sense by the end, but it would
No,
probably be very entertaining. I'm just
yeah,
saying. An
there is no
all-day
doubt about that.
wine-a-thon.
Maybe just mostly entertaining to us.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to pick another one. Consider a wider geographic reach. And that kind of goes along with that whole self-awareness piece that Steve was talking about earlier as well. I think that people, companies forget that when you're looking for these specialized talents, when you're looking for these roles, you are not always, it depends on where you're located, but you're going to have to go outside typically, especially if you're in a small town. Like I'm from Michigan, so I always think of like, oh, you're going to have to go either downstate or you're going to have to go outside of the state. And so when you're thinking about that, you want to consider a wider geographic reach, but then you also want to think about, okay, well, great, now how do I get them here? So maybe consider like relocation assistance, remote work opportunities, I think would be a fantastic thing to do here. Steve, what have you noticed with your clients when it comes to broadening that geographic reach? Can you give us an example of when you've asked a client to do that and it's turned out for the best?
I was hoping you'd pick this one. Uh,
Look at me.
you're gonna like this story because it's gonna hit close to home, literally. You must know Herman Miller in Zeeland, Michigan,
Oh,
right down the
I
street.
know Zealand. Yep, yeah.
So must have been 8 or 10 years ago. They were looking for a VP Treasury, and the requirement was executive level treasury experience in an M&D environment, preferably publicly traded. In a local market, it's like 5 companies, right? You go an hour away, and all of a sudden you're talking to people at Whirlpool, Kellogg.
Yes.
You're an hour and 15, hour and a half away. Nobody wanted to do that commute every day. So
No.
when we did that search, the way we enhanced the talent pool before just throwing it out to everybody in the country was to strategically find people that had graduated from colleges nearby or had previously worked at companies nearby. And we went all the way to Miami, Florida, and found an individual who picked up the phone and said, I'd love to move back home to Michigan. How did you find me? And that was the find was, I think,
It's amazing.
a former striker, whichever company she had worked for. She had relocated. They hated Florida. They couldn't wait to come home. They just didn't have time to like look for it on their own. And here I was. They came back home. So expanding a geographic reach shouldn't be done, I think the word would be flippantly, right?
Yeah.
Strategically. Albion and Michigan State's not too far, right? Uh, what's the is Calvin the other one that's near GR, if I remember correct? Is Calvin College? I think so.
There's Calvin, there's Grand Valley,
Yeah, Grand Valley, yeah.
well, Western is down there in
Yeah,
Kalamazoo. You have Ferris that's only an hour north. So I mean we're
yeah.
surrounded. Yeah.
So that's been our strategy is if we feel like the local talent pool doesn't have enough um of the right people within it, it's not just anybody in America, but it's who might have a tie to the region, a boomerang hire, if you will.
So smart.
Um, and
So smart.
you'll know Dart Container perhaps over in Mason, Michigan
Mhm.
too,
Yes, for sure.
which is like a good hour and a half from GR or Detroit. Uh, and it's been similar. A former client of ours where we did a lot of boomerang. Hey, I saw you went here and you're not in the market. Oh, you know what? My mom's there and she's been asking me to come home. That kind of thing. So that'd be
Yeah.
my suggestion is strategically keying on my favorite one's universities and companies nearby. I think the best way to strategically enhance a talent pool.
I just love that one. That is such a great little gift that you just handed everyone. Thank you.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that.
And you mentioned Albion, so we got
I
two Albion
know.
alumni here. Albion Ryan doesn't get too many shout outs.
No.
Yeah. I'm glad to get one. And I think I think they have a good account. I've talked to some Albion people over the years for sure. So
They have
don't
a great business department,
yeah.
period, or yeah, program, I should say.
So the next one I want to go to, because it goes with everything we've been saying, but again, it might be something that might not be obvious to folks, but it's in the recruitment process, introducing, like, once you get it down to a few candidates, introducing them to the team. So I think a lot of times we tend to only involve decision makers in the recruitment process. But if these people are going to be working with or leading a team of people, it's important for them to actually meet those people, and for the team to decide if this is the right person to lead them, and or for that person to decide if they're the right person to lead this team. And again, I think that's not something we tend to see in the recruitment process, because it tends to be the same, sort of the same people that are involved for the vast majority of positions.
Mhm. Um, well, I think, boy, there are some different. This is one where I, I don't have a strong. I can see both schools of thought on this one actually. Like I've led some executive hires where they didn't have the opportunity to meet their team beforehand, and maybe the hiring team thought, this we're pretty confident this group needs to be turned over, and that's a big part of your job, and so we're not so sure it's super relevant for you to come in and then clean house, right when you come in. Do you know what I mean? I think it can be a little touchy. And I'll give you an example where I kind of screwed up as a leader in this spot for my own team. I had a hire at my previous firm years ago now, and I introduced them to the team, and the team was like, eh. And I was ready to make the offer. And now all of a sudden I'm making an offer to an eh. And I kind of wish I had just said, this person's on my payroll. I'm making the call. They ended up working out, but it made for an awkward meeting with the existing team to go, I know you gave me the but I'm still making the offer. It made them, I'm sure, feel like their opinions weren't valued. Maybe their time was misspent. So this is a tough one. I think the firm I'm growing now, our firm, will have everybody meet the entire team and be very thorough and very deliberate. But I frankly, I can see where there can be some sensitive nature to this one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that point. On the flip side, I have also seen it where, when it is a well-established team, you don't think that there is the need for a turnover of the team. Then it can be pretty offensive to them if they aren't included in the process, because they're like, to your point, they feel devalued. They feel like, seriously, you like didn't even let us say hello to the guy before you just brought a new person in, you know. And again, I do think it depends on what their role is going to be. I think it is different if it's a they're being brought in to lead the team, and again, the company doesn't anticipate the team is going to be going anywhere or needs to go anywhere, like they want to keep that team. I think that's a pretty different situation than if they're just a high level individual contributor. Then no, they probably don't need to meet the team. Or to your point, if they think the whole team may need to be revamped, then maybe it's not a good idea. So yeah, I guess there are a lot of nuances to that particular situation. Trish, what about you? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I'm just sitting here laughing at you guys because I'm like, mm-hmm, yep, 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 yep. I mean, there's nothing else for me to say. I wholeheartedly agree with both of you. I mean, I have been in situations where I it ended up being a very bad thing that we had introduced the potential leader. Things got brought up that really weren't relevant, and it kind of caused a rift, and so that was a definite problem. And then on the flip side of that, I have seen where it has been such a benefit, because people do feel valued. You know, we always say that we want our employees to feel heard, valued, respected. Well, if this is going to be a leader that they're working with and that they're going to be asked to be planning, not just like working, but like strategic planning, what we're thinking about at that kind of level. If you want to make sure that people are going to work well together, that they have an opportunity to make sure that they are going to be able to work well together, that you know they don't have to be friends, but they need to be respectful of one another, and an opportunity to do that or to learn about that is in these before you spend the money to hire someone. So
That's what I learned from that one experience that I alluded to before. It wasn't that the team didn't get along. I mean, again, it ended up being multiple successful years with the team, but I just hadn't prepped them for why I wanted them to meet with the candidate. Had I said, hey, we're getting ready to make an offer, just make sure I'm not missing any red flags. That's different. They came out of it and went, I don't think we'd be pals on the weekends. Like that doesn't matter in this
right.
context, right? I
Yes,
just I
exactly.
prepped it right, and so it had the so that comes back to the leader and all the reasons leadership matters, I guess, right? That's
Managing
Yeah,
expectations and setting the stage for the meeting. Like, why are we here? What is the point of this?
right.
yeah, I do think that did spark another thought in my head, which is, even if you can't, if it's not appropriate for them to meet the team, if you are using some of those assessment tools, make sure that they actually will mesh with the team. If it is somebody they're going to have to work with a lot, I do think that those I have mixed feelings about a lot of those assessments for all the reasons Trisha and I have always talked about. But when they are used the right way, they can be a helpful tool
Sure.
to see how people will work with one another or if they're going to run into a lot of obstacles working together. So that could be an important part of the process.
I think as long as they're the ones that are designed to say, okay, this is the kind of leader they will be, this is the kind of
Yeah.
employee they will be, this is where they'll thrive. But those that say, oh no, don't hire them, I always tell my classes this. I'm like, look, people can go on the web, they can find the website, and they can cheat. Like those things are completely useless if it's one of those who's like hire or don't hire. No, but if it says here's the kind of person or the kind of candidate or the kind of employee, then those are helpful because it says here's how they're going to grow. Here's how you can help them grow. Here's where they'll be successful. And that ultimately is what we care about.
Right on. I had an experience with, and by the way, recruit third party headhunters usually hate those assessments because they'll work 3 weeks, narrow it down to one candidate. The assessment says no, and they're doing the whole search over again.
Oh,
Um,
Steve, want me to tell you a story?
can you please? I'd love to hear
I
it.
was in the fourth round of interviews at a job. This was years ago up in Minnesota, and all I had to do was pass the test. And one of the questions, and it was the question, and the reason that they told them I couldn't be hired was because it said, "Had you ever cheated on a test?" And I answered honestly, and the guy just started screaming at me, and he's like, "Why would you answer this?" And I was like, "Because I had cheated on a test in third grade." And he was like, "In third grade? Are you effing kidding me? Like,
Um,
what are you thinking?" And I was like, "Look, if the question was, have you ever cheated on a test? Then I'm going to answer it ever." It didn't say, "Oh, but it's okay if it was back in third grade."
yeah,
And that's kind of how it goes to how literal I am as well. But it was kind of a great moment for me too, because I was like, you just screamed at me for being honest with my answer. I'm really glad I'm not going to get this job.
dodged a bullet.
So, yeah, absolutely. So there's my story.
Very I think I can trust Trish with secrets is what I'm hearing. Like she's gonna hold on to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Well, and I think that, I've talked about it before, but I think there's so much bias on so many fronts built into a lot of
Mhm.
those. Like I took one that one of my clients uses because I was just curious about it. And I may have shared this experience on a prior season, but it was one of those where you're given a just a bunch of words and you're supposed to circle the ones that best describe you, like outside of work and then at work. And it was just really hard for me as a woman to do that because I'm looking at some of these words, particularly the ones that were given to me for at work. And some of them were things like assertive. Well, sometimes women who are assertive are labeled other words, And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to pick that because I don't want them to think that I'm bitch. So then it's like, okay, well, I can't say assertive. Well, then, so I wasn't answering honestly. I was picking what I thought, they would be most likely to expect or want a woman to answer. So I was using bias in answering it, and then they're using bias in looking at it. And so it's just like one of those where I think that they can be very problematic. I think they probably also have their place if they are used properly, which this one, by the time you get through to the end, it extracts all that and it says, like, these are their strengths, these are their weaknesses,
Sure.
and labels you like a particular type of person so then they can sort of decide what sort of position you'd be best at. Which, they've had some luck with it, but I also think sometimes, to
I
Trisha's
refused to
point,
take it. For the record,
yeah,
Steve, I
yeah.
refused to take it. They asked me to do it too, and I told them no.
Yeah. Well, I was just curious because I wanted to
Right.
see, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know about this. I don't know how, you know, I don't
You,
know.
you do enough HR or recruiting, and you come to have some good stories. I'll piggyback off of that with one of my own. I remember a time I had a new client in Florida that used this assessment. It was a new one for me. And I was like, "Do you mind if I take it? I actually want to just see what these candidates are going to go through, right?" So he sends it to me, and this was back in the in-office culture days, must have been 7 or 8 years ago. I got into the office. I want to be the first one there because they said do this first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee and complete silence to get the best score. And I'm like prideful. I want to get a great score on this thing. I get in, I'm like cracking my knuckles, I'm ready to go. I hit start, and I think like right when I hit start, my boss walked in. He's like, "So," start, and I like he's my boss. Like I didn't want to be like, "Can you give me 5 minutes?" Like it was right in the middle of it, and I think I ended up scoring a few points lower than I would have because of it was a timed test. And so anyway, long story short, there's a lot of variables with these things. That's why I think Trish, you suggested these should probably be supplementary, not pass fail, which if we're landing the plane, I totally agree with.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, we have covered a lot of things. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to give their closing thoughts or their most, the thing they hope people take away the most. So, Steve, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. The thing I would my favorite topic that we covered is employer branding. And then I want to just suggest the same thing for candidate branding. Like um when you're maybe not an international tax person that's super specialized and you're in a competitive interview process against 5 or 6 other people, be the one who has a nice polished LinkedIn with a professional headshot. Be the one that sends a follow-up email after the interview that doesn't just say thanks for the time, but says, here's what we covered and why I thought I might be a good fit for your role. And if you're the hiring company, right, same thing. Um, you know, that standard follow-up message you get from a candidate, nobody responds. Be the hiring manager that responds and says, I enjoyed the meeting too. Look forward to our next opportunity together. Like those little things along the way will land you better people, right? Which will make your organization stronger. And that's what it's all about. So I guess I want to say do the little things with your branding along the way, because all those little things add up to a better organization.
I love that so much. That was one of my favorite things when I was doing recruiting. I definitely, anytime, first of all, I always kept the handwritten notes that people sent, like those were my favorite. But when I got the responses on email, I made sure to answer every single one of them because I did. I thought it was very important, and I thought it would go to serve as a good reminder for them why they wanted to work with us if we chose them.
Sure.
So
Love
I
it.
love it. And I'm going back to something you said and that I've already commented on. I cannot help but get off of this. That whole idea of self-awareness. I really think companies need to understand what it is that they are offering, what it is that they bring to the table, what are their limitations. Look, limitations exist for all of us. Nobody or no company is perfect. So be aware to acknowledge that and then say, but here's what we think we can do to compensate for that, or what we're doing to try to compensate for that, and be willing to listen to the Steves in your life and really let what they have to provide you sink in and be the benefit that it can be if you actually listen to their advice.
Yeah, both very good points. I guess mine is there's two. So the first is I really like the concept of focusing on retention from day one. And I know we've talked about that generally, but with these highly specialized folks, I think it's even more important because, as we said, the hiring process is longer and the retention is not great. So, if you're going to put that kind of investment into somebody, really thinking about where have the problems arisen in the past, like taking sort of a historical assessment and saying, when have we lost people? When is our most vulnerable time? What can we do to maybe strengthen our connection with this person during that time or from day one so that we maybe don't have that issue with this particular person? And then the second one is, we do have people like Steve out there who are experts in finding these specialized folks. And I think it's really important to use those resources. Like we don't all know everything. We're not all going to be able to figure it out. And a lot of times, particularly as HR professionals, we know we're stretched for time as it is. And so to then try to figure out like, oh God, now I got to do research on um, international tax experts and what they should and shouldn't know or where to find them. And, that's a really tall ask for somebody who's putting out fires all day and just trying to keep the wheels on the bus going around and round, So use those resources, use those specialized recruiters because they can really make your job a lot easier.
I thought of one more I have to do.
Go for it.
Because you said longer, it takes longer, but it's not just longer, it's longer and more costly. And I think that our HR professionals out there, as we've said, many of you are scared to look at the numbers, where we don't like data, we don't like numbers, but this is one of those times when it could actually really help you. Steve gave you a lot of great information. We gave you a lot of great information. And I would suggest that you prep ahead of time and take this to your leaders and say, you need to understand this is going to take this amount of time and it is going to cost more than our usual hire. And so here we need to make a plan of what we want to do then for that retention and to make sure we don't have to do this that often.
Managing expectations. There it is again.
Always my favorite.
All right. Well, this was awesome, Steve. It was so great to have you on the show. Before we go, we got to check back in on your WINE. So how is your, what was it called? Spring?
I'm trying to show it again. It's not going to show. Spring in a bottle from Wolf.
Spring in a bottle.
It's a spark. I don't think I said this. It's a sparkling wine, which, if you're going to drink NA, I do think when you get that sparkle, it feels a little less juicy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It does. So my brain, it likes what's happening with the sparkling here. So it's very nice. I'm enjoying it, and I wouldn't be drinking it if I wasn't on the podcast, but I'm glad I have it. Now I've got something to sip on while my wife enjoys the real deal the next time.
I love it. I love it.
How many days are you into your 100-day cleanse?
I just looked it up. Today's 50.
Okay, halfway
Home.
All right.
Awesome.
Where will I be in 50 days? Is that like Halloween? Because Rocky River Halloween is really fun. So I hope that gets me to the 100-day mark. So, the holidays, right? The red wine with the turkey. We talked about it. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Are you tasting those jalapenos even more as it settles in there?
I am. I have to say it really is quite nice.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised by this. I don't know why. I mean, I guess you wouldn't think that something that could be equally potent or like have a lot of flavor would actually nicely cut the flavor of the wine. But it's very subtle, but it's just kind of this nice, like sort of when you have a regular margarita and you muddle jalapenos in it, and it's just like this sort of very subtle, spiciness. So I do like it. I don't know that I like it more than Sauvignon Blanc by itself, because I really enjoy Sauvignon Blanc. So, but I will say that I do know that there are certain brands of Sauvignon Blanc that are particularly bitey. That's the word I always use. That this would probably work really well with. This
I was
root
just
one,
gonna say that.
Yeah, this root one is a little bit more subtle, so you don't really need to cut it. But I'm impressed. So Melanie Flannery, thanks again for the suggestion. It was fun to try.
So did she say it was only Sauvignon Blanc?
Yes. I mean,
Okay,
that's what's
all right.
going on. That's what's going around on TikTok. So I don't know. You could try it with another wine, I'm sure, but
Yeah. I think I'll just try it with the Sauvignon Blanc. That sounds good. I'm gonna try to go back into my mind and find like the most, as we say, bitey one that I can think of and try it. So
yeah.
thank you, Melanie.
I think it's that Matua. Matua? Is it Matua?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
I
one's
love
pretty
Matua.
bitey.
That is.
I do
it
too,
is.
but I think it's
Yeah.
pretty bitey. So maybe that one would be a better one to try it with.
Julie, I'm gonna see you in a couple of weeks.
We can do it together. Yeah. Yay. Watch out, winos. We're going to have a recording where we're in the same room. That's always dangerous.
Always.
Okay, Trish, how about you? Are you tasting the other flavors?
I am actually. I'm still loving the way it. Now you tell me, Jules, because you're the one who loves the mineral wines. But do they usually hit you at the front of the tongue? Is that where you taste the minerals?
Yes, and then also on the back end, depending what they
Definitely.
are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm getting them like right at the front of my tongue, and then at the back of my mouth, like as I'm swallowing, and not right as I'm swallowing, but like as it goes through. And then definitely, what is the cherry for sure? Like it's the cherry is, and I love cherries, so it's pleasant. It's nice and light, and it's perfect. Like it was cold today when I first was thinking about the wine. I mean, cold. It was like 65. And so I was like, oh, I could actually do a red today. Now I'm dying. I have the fan on, and so yeah.
I
know.
Michigan. I forgot about that whole part of your culture until I went and visited last month. We should have brought home some cherry wine. They make wine with cherries up there, yeah?
That is true. That is true. Yeah, up in Traverse City especially, but yeah. It's great. I mean, and you're right, it is really part of the culture here. It's like you need to dress for 4 seasons, or at least 3 seasons in every day, especially this time of year, because all of a sudden it's like Mother Nature goes, here's the calendar, it's almost September, boom, And then like you wake up in the morning and you're freezing,
Yep.
and then by like the afternoon you're like shedding every layer you can find.
Spending a day in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ohio's not that much different, but you are a little farther north. So you do get a little bit more of
I'll
the
be much
rapid.
further north soon.
I know. I know. That's exciting. That's exciting. Okay, everybody. Thank you so, so much for joining us. Steve, thank you again for being on our podcast.
Such a pleasure.
So much fun. Yes, so much fun. And as always, you know where to find us. Send us wine recommendations, send us topic recommendations. You can email us at winewithr at monarchendeavorsllc.com. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, forgot what they were called for a second there. The long
And
pause,
remember,
show notes. Yeah.
wine is WHINE.
Yes, yes. And so until next time, make sure that you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Tell all your friends. Follow us on Patreon, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.